Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, in the study, tourism is addressed under three headlines or topics: cruise tourism, maritime tourism, and boating and yachting. Of course, from the point of view of priority area tourism, I look at tourism as a whole, but of course, maritime tourism, and I don't want to follow this differentiation here. Maritime tourism is at the center of our activities, and it's in the center of tourism cooperation. In fact, tourism is a very important economic driver, sometimes neglected, sometimes overseen, because people think, well, people travel anyway, so we don't have to do much about it. But in fact, well, it's a third sector in terms of employment and GDP. And in the Baltic Sea region, we have about 100 million international arrivals, so this is quite a lot, and we have a dynamic growth, especially in Poland, Sweden, and Russia. What is also sometimes forgotten, tourism triggers self-employment and entrepreneurship. It offers a perspective for rural areas, and we also have rural coastal areas. So there is always the link between maritime and perhaps more land-based tourism. It helps us to capitalize on what we have in nature, in culture, and at the same time it has to adapt to quite a lot of challenges here. What I want to say is, as we talk about green and blue growth, of course, well, tourism in the Baltic Sea region, in my view and in the view of a lot of other people, only has a future if it is developed sustainably. So here we have the connecting point between blue and green growth, and this is for tourism the only perspective in the future. But as tourists don't stop at the national border unless they are not given a visa, we only can exploit the potential that we have in tourism through cooperation. And obstacles there are quite many, also mentioned by Angela Schulz-Zehn, which is the fragmentation because of mostly SME structure. It's a very competitive sector because we have similar things to offer. It's a cross-sectoral sector that is linked to energy, to transport, to innovation, and to cultural policies. And this is sometimes leads to a situation where it is forgotten. And it's really difficult to find tourism in the funding schemes that are currently discussed. I can only repeat myself. But we have to be inventive, and we have to follow the logic of Europe 2020 and sail along the line of job creation and innovation. So, but at the same time, this multi-sectoral character gives the tourism sector a kind of multiplier character or multiplier function. It has effects on a lot of sectors, and this should not be forgotten. So it has to adapt to a lot of different trends in technology, in demographic changes, IT, and so on. And so it has to be very innovative, and tourism providers or destinations need to be very innovative in order to stay in the race. So from coming back more to priority area tourism, we want to make this cooperation happen. We want to facilitate this cooperation and make an effective use of available resources, because resources are very scarce. So there are two things that I would highlight here. First, we have to promote transfer and take-up of good practice. This is still a challenge, even though we are in the 5th year of the Baltic Sea strategy implementation. It is not self-understood, and this has to do, in my point of view, mostly with the fact that the strategy is not compulsory if we talk about the implementation of programs and projects. So they keep going as they are, and well, that's a challenge. And the other point is we have to, of course, bundle resources for new initiatives. This cooperation does not come by itself. In the Baltic Sea region, we don't have a consensus, or let's say we are moving towards a consensus that cooperation in tourism is necessary. We are on a good way, but it's a process. It takes time. And so this is also self-evident, perhaps. This we have to build cooperation structures that offer an added value. And this is a challenge, because what does it mean to have an added value? I think we are not talking simply about getting funding for projects, but we need to get funding for projects that are able to exist and produce results after the funding period has ended. And so the question of the involvement of the private sector is at the table and is key from my point of view. Talking about structures, we have the Baltic Sea Tourism Forum, which is very important in our field. It has gained acceptance also in the Scandinavian countries, unfortunately. Next year, the Baltic Sea Tourism Forum will take in Karlskrona in the south of Sweden on the 2nd and 3rd of October. And this forum has proved to become more and more a forum for new project ideas, for active development of new initiatives. And we want to build a kind of competence center around this forum, which bundles resources and capacities to make the sector to strengthen it. A second body of cooperation or coordination that was recently established is a kind of steering committee, as we call it, for tourism policy in the Baltic Sea region, which comprises the tourism ministries from all around the Baltic Sea region. In some areas, this is self-understood. In the environment, energy, ministers meet, the expert level meet. This is not the case for tourism. So we are here at a very basic level. And talking about the future, the idea is that we develop structures that are strong enough that they can also live without the Baltic Sea strategy. I think we should, in the end, try to give the job then to the sectors themselves, to organize themselves. Two last point, current activities in the framework of the Baltic Sea Tourism Forum, that the last one we had at the end of September in Ringsted. We talked about boat and yachting tourism and also cruise tourism. The idea here is that we develop and talk about joint standards for sustainable tourism, the sustainable development of products. We have, I think, if we talk about boating tourism, yachting tourism, there are already some standards available, which have to be promoted stronger, of course. In the field of cruise ship tourism, there's one flagship project going on under the leadership of AIDA Cruises, which is about to develop sustainability indicators for land excursions. And here we also have the interface maritime tourism, rural tourism, which is very important. We hope to have the results there next spring, and the idea is to promote these standards within the sector, so that it crosses, it becomes really a sectoral standards. With regard to the seed money facility, there is one project in application that was developed during the last 6-7 months. This project application focuses on maritime heritage. If you look at coastal areas, a lot of, let's say, heritage issues are there. It's not only nature, it's also cultural. You have lighthouses, you have military fortifications, you have certain geographic, you have rocks, whatever you have. So it's quite a lot, and the basic idea of this project application is to have a higher visibility of maritime heritage and to make it accessible, not only physically, also by IT. And the idea is to make these regions more attractive to create jobs, and also to keep people in the region, because of course coastal areas are not only metropolitan areas, they also suffer from migration. What else? Perhaps have I forgotten something? No. Links between the strategies. I think it was you, Angela, who proposed we should designate the relevant priority areas for blue growth. and involve them in policy development. In the next year, you have a lot of things on the table, developing also, I think, a communication on maritime tourism. It would be good to involve the PAs in this. On the other hand, I would like to say we should also see that the strategies are not a purpose in themselves. So it's also a question, what can the strategy contribute to the priority areas to make them more effective? So this is an open question that might be discussed later. And regarding funding, I think it would be useful if you look at the different ETC programs to highlight blue growth related thematic objectives. In this context, I think that education and also innovation are kind of enablers or facilitators to promote blue growth. So I think education, innovation are key in this respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wolf. I think that yourself you asked you a question, and I would like to ask you to deepen a little your question. So what could be the strategy that could allow us to be more effective in reaching growth for this sector? And you mentioned also the private sector and the importance to involve the private sector. But I think one issue that it's specific maybe for this results, it's the competition in this sector. So how we can have more cooperation from this sector and less competitiveness, less competition?
Well, first of all, I would say competition is quite healthy and it's good because,
of course.
I guess you will agree, because it produces good results. It makes you better. We have to. I would like to give you a practical example. We have one project which shows where we could go to, but at a very, let's say, low profile level. We have the Enjoy South Baltic project in the South Baltic program. And in this project, there are partners from Germany, Poland, and Lithuania. And it's their objective to brand their regions, their tourism destinations. And they've chosen 3 markets, Switzerland, the UK, and Russia. And taking the example of Switzerland, Mecklenburg-Vorpommern is already active on the Swiss market, doing tourism marketing. And I think last week there was a tourism fair in Zurich, where they have taken their Polish and their Lithuanian partners to this fair. So in this case, Mecklenburg-Vorpommern was a door opener for their partners and had a joint presentation there at the fair. And from what I hear from them is they were quite satisfied. And I think this is the way to go. The response that they got from tour operators from Switzerland was, well, if there was only one partner, perhaps they wouldn't have come, but it was attractive to get this combination. And I think there's huge potential for this. And let's say there is business that might be done or that could be done if we go there together. And but as you said, we are competitors, and this thinking in competitive terms prevails, of course. And therefore it's a process. But this is something we have to highlight. And I think if we promote and transfer this good practice, it will become more and more evident. And so cooperation will become stronger, and also the involvement of the private sector. Mm-hmm.